did
Just a
that.
No, those, no, they don't.
Basic.
So we don't have to sign.
Yeah.
No, that's in the statute, MCL 41.72. Or you have to have two members or the supervisor. Also.
But could we add, just as a side note, our ethics ordinance instead of the ICMA Code of Ethics, put our actual adopted ordinance in the back?
Should be.
That way,
Yeah, cause actually the ICME really is more you, isn't it? That everybody, or is that everybody?
that's everybody,
Oh, it is, okay.
cause it's a board. This is just like
Outlines the same.
super vague, and we got one done for a reason, so I think it should be our own.
It should.
Okay.
It should. That's
Especially
too,
for new incoming members.
Yeah.
I just say that because it's an election year.
that's
Yep.
too confusing.
Yeah.
So what'd you have next?
Oh, let's see, what do I got next here? What do I have on there? I don't have any notes there, so I'll have to review that. Page 42. Public access to meeting records, D. And I just have I have a blue flag instead of a red, cause it's not as, whatever. I told you I'm a color guy.
Blue, red,
Yeah,
same thing.
so
Color
blue,
coded.
so it's not so red on fire. I just have a note, all set, question mark. So do we have like meeting minutes, like for everything that's out there? Like, they can find it someplace or another, like in our old files or in our new ones or wherever?
We should have the ones that were on DOD, and then when we transition to the website, I believe Tara has all of those from when we changed over to now, are now loaded on there, as well as new resolutions, cause those were on there.
Okay.
So I think we do have everything up now
Eight business days,
that
okay.
we have.
I was actually, trying to get the minutes and stuff to even have like the hush report minutes available. I know they're available on the Hushra site, but
Right.
it would be nice to
Link
have
them.
all of our board
Yeah.
stuff
That's a
as
good
well
idea.
listed
And-
on there.
Question for you, because we had the CLIB, the IET is there, cause right now I do the minutes, and I have a book that I keep track of those in, so they're all in there. But is that just transition with the secretary, or just between me and you, we need to, when we have the IET meeting, I just need to know, maybe according to,
Do they keep those on a separate site? That's probably,
The IET is always elected a secretary
Yeah.
to take the minutes. And so there is a record, Roberta used to
Yeah.
do that. And so there is a record of minutes
so it goes with
going
the
back
secretary then, is how they've done.
prior.
I just wanted to make sure Fred needs them, cause I told him he said to keep them on. And we have all the minutes, but just to make sure I'm keeping them in the right place. Or that they mention in their bylaws where those will be held. If that's, if it's something I might have sent to the county, if the bylaws say that Iosco County holds those documents, but
I
they're.
don't think there is, but
Basis that
you
we
could check with Fred to
question
make sure,
Yeah.
just to make sure we have it right.
Just going over all that, it just made me think about it, that we have it, but I wanna make sure that if there's somewhere it says Iosco County needs it, I'm forwarding it to Nancy Hubel or somebody, so they have that record there.
I don't think
We
so,
don't
but
have
check
a-
with Fred, he will know.
a fee for that, do we? This says the clerk shall promptly send copies to persons who have subscribed and paid the fee as established by the township board. Is not aware of a subscription
Yeah.
or a
Me either.
fee for minutes.
Subscription.
That's under public
just be-
access to meeting records.
Page 40.
I didn't know there was a subscription either.
Yeah.
Nobody signing up.
Maybe.
So should we get rid of that?
Yeah.
Statement of this?
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
And then right under
the
that,
internet.
I just think it says publication of minutes, the clerk can't, publish the minutes for lack of access to the website, so that should be the superintendent's office. Cause as soon as they're signed, Josh sends them to Tara, and Tara
Tara
posts
posts
them
them, okay.
on the website, so.
Should we reference well, I guess minutes, it should be posted, you don't need to do a FOIA for that, right?
No, 'cause those are
Okay.
public.
No, yeah, and then anything that's publicly out there, if somebody does request it, I give them the website link directly in there.
So you wanna put instead of the clerk, the superintendent?
Superintendent's office, that way, cause that leaves it open for Tara to do.
Right.
Okay, place in, let's see, page 36. It's the only other red flag I got that we haven't talked about. Placing items on the agenda. So, members of the public. I know that, Kelly asked this question, and I know that somebody else, I think it was, what's his face? Yeah. Talked about putting stuff on the agenda. Do we need to review that since it's in here? Have we ever followed this? I don't ever remember us like letting people put stuff on the agenda previous to this protocol.
Me
But-
neither.
So I don't know how, or what we should do with that. Because it's here. Is there something else in a publication that this came from? I mean, obviously, if members of the public have something, should there be other opportunities or different venues to address their concerns instead of doing it this way?
Normally that's public comment.
Right. But so that they can get answers though to the questions, like
Well,
sit down,
You
at
could
meetings.
walk in the building.
Right.
And request to talk to somebody. I was gonna ask if we could, since we had that meeting room, if board members individual board members wanted to hold office hours. Belknap
Right.
Township has a specific office for their trustees. Each trustee shares the same space. They have copies of budgets and things like that, and access to a laptop. They can sit there for a couple hours or whatever, review payment of bills, things like that.
Right.
I mean, and maybe that would be your time to set up an appointment with the trustee or the supervisor, which Bill, has hours. Normally, if people have a concern, they will come in and talk about it, trust me. We all know that very well, but, as far as it being brought up last night, old business is not going to be just something I can throw on the agenda. That's a board decision, not mine, so.
Does anybody that's been on any other board have an old business section?
Planning commission.
Planning commission does have old business.
They have, there's, I forget, maybe 5 or 6 items on there, and it's the same things that are printed on there every meeting.
I know for a while we were putting some of the topics like waiting for information on there, but that kinda got,
That's usually, and this business of things being dropped by the wayside, I will address, because I wanna know what they are. I offered, Mr. Spencer to go back over the last 3 years worth of meetings, and he said there's no need to.
right,
I have, ever since we sat down, I don't remember which meeting it was, where we discussed
No.
having postponed items kept on the agenda until they were taken care of.
yeah,
And since that date, that's exactly what I have done.
yeah,
And that's why the resolution's still on there, because we have to keep it on there until
Right.
it's either settled or whatever, so.
right,
As far as other business goes,
Sorry.
I mean, it's only gonna be things we haven't accomplished, and that's the same as having a postponed item on the agenda,
right.
so.
Yeah.
The planning commission owns it, was not that.
Yes, it's
Oh, they
not
don't?
in there, it's not in the protocol.
No.
Our.
I'm
their-
just saying that's,
Bylaws.
that, what used to be in there when I was on.
Right,
They
and
started
Yeah.
adding that. And
the bylaws actually spell that out, that it's not supposed to be right there, so.
I'll be honest, haven't had a chance to do any research on it myself. But I can reach out to a couple other townships or whatever and see what they do to, try, I
But
guess.
either way, the only way to add that to the agenda is if it's in here.
Yeah.
Cause it lays out specifically what goes on the agenda, cause if you remember, like way back, Ann wanted to add something to the agenda, a section, I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly what it was,
Yeah,
but she was told no, because it's not in here.
Yeah.
Right, so,
so, yeah, no, so I don't know the answer to that. I guess my thing, the only thing I think that it's a positive, not to add it to the agenda or to do whatever, but like transparency, I guess, as far as that goes, I mean, that's what we're supposed to be doing, and the more transparent we are, I think, with things, whether we already know the answer or not, because we've been doing it a long time, a lot of people don't know the different answers. I think it would help with Josh's FOIAs, I know he's got a ton of them and things like that, I think that the more transparent we can be with a lot of items, that stuff will go away.
well, if we
Yeah.
had old business,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes,
but,
yeah.
I mean.
That we haven't addressed, right, correct.
We don't, so, I mean, and I will gladly, go back and look
Right.
on my own, because I know, just, so, for example, the property, the cemetery property.
Right.
There's a mixed bag of what we thought we did at that meeting when it was brought forward by Todd.
The first time.
Right, right. And I was telling Bill this morning, I can still remember him saying, well, they're not gonna get rid of that, they wanna keep it for a cemetery. That was it. And then a lot of other board members thought we actually took it off of this board list.
Yeah, I probably did.
And
Yeah.
that's not what was in the minutes,
Oh.
so.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I'll go back through and see if there's anything that I did, I
Yeah,
don't mind
I-
doing
yeah.
that at all.
Right.
But if there's nothing to put on there, what's the sense of having it there?
Right.
Just to have it empty. I know and working for Bob, the less clutter. I have been through several changes on the agenda before we created the board protocol. The less clutter on the agenda, the less confusing it was. At one point, the board decided if there was nothing under that particular section, it needed to be removed off the agenda for that meeting, because some board members got confused.
Mm-hmm.
So, several changes like that, I mean, so, if I'm not gonna put it on it like when we do an agenda for subcommittees, that comes right off if we're not doing it. And I'm pretty sure it was Mr. Pryor who had, he would see it there and assume that there was something for that because it was still on the
On
agenda.
there. So,
Yeah, that's true.
Like if it's that informational, but nothing is listed.
Right,
That's
right.
why.
Well, it's here, why aren't we talking about it?
right,
You
so,
know.
yeah,
So, I'm just saying,
so that's just I guess, I
Yeah.
just wanted to bring it up just to talk about it and see what people's thoughts were.
I say
maybe
we
work
check
on it.
into that and see
Okay.
how common it is to have
Yeah.
a
and what
little
if-
business section cause you would I think it's gonna boil down to actually having old business
Right,
to have it up.
right.
Has anything on old business been neglected, been not brought up, what's our policy for,
I keep hearing that there's old business that's been dropped by the wayside, but I don't,
that's what I wanna
nobody has
know.
brought
I
it to
don't
me.
know.
Like
So.
an actual item that's been to the board that we haven't done anything with?
Yeah.
Like on the agenda that we talked about?
Yes.
I'd have to look myself.
Exactly.
Cause I remember
So-
when you're right, when you brought that up, we kept things on the agenda, cause people were getting aggravated,
Yeah.
but we'd have to keep
And I
bringing
made
it, and then
sure-
some of them, the only way we removed them was we finally took action, whether the action was to say we're not gonna take action, we're no longer pursuing this, whatever, so that it would get removed.
I made
'cause
sure of it.
carried-
Since that day, I have been adamant about re-adding back to the agenda. That way, even if it said placeholder, even if it was postponed, I kept it on there, just because.
The only one I can think of, I don't know if it was on the agenda though, that disposal of property was, and we took it down.
No, that was a discussion, cause someone and I'm not gonna be pointing any fingers at this point, made changes to that were not taken to the board.
Oh, okay,
And I took it down because it wasn't authorized.
okay, so that never got to the
So
board.
that was not a board
Action.
issue.
Okay, I got that.
And the
Okay.
board didn't authorize any changes, that's why it never went anywhere, because,
Okay, so that
wasn't
never made it
authorized.
to the board, okay.
right, so. Other than that.
That was the only one I could think of.
Yeah, well, I didn't think we needed to make any changes to it,
And I
we
did-
just created it,
Right, yeah.
so.
Most items, if it's on the agenda and we don't act, we postpone it to a date certain. And then once you put a date or time when it will be brought back on, then you have to bring it back. But there are occasions when things are just postponed, and then there's no action that needs to be taken on it. That's according to our attorney.
If you look it up, actually, under, what class was I in for that? If you postpone something, it never comes back. If you table something, you have to table it to another date, and you have to be date specific.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
it cannot be
Yep.
readdressed, so.
Yeah, if
I
you
don't, I'm gonna have to look at it.
if you postpone, say till, motion is to postpone to the next meeting,
Yes.
then it has to be on the agenda for the next meeting.
You have
If
to
it's
have a
simply
date.
postponed, according to our attorney, you can bring it back or not, it's gone.
Well, okay, so I didn't flag it, but now that we're talking about it, page 46 in our protocol.
Put it flag.
Yeah, I will put a flag, page 6 and 46. It talks about the postponement of business, but and it addresses that, but it says postpone indefinitely. If you vote to postpone indefinitely, that kills the main motion and avoids direct vote on any question. But we didn't postpone indefinitely.
We didn't put a date on it, so I'd say you did postpone it
Take a
indefinitely.
position on a pending question.
So I
You
will
have to
just speak for
understand,
myself.
this was written
Voting to postpone
by a different attorney
indefinitely kills
Right.
than what we currently have.
Okay.
And our current attorney says, once it's postponed, you can bring it back, flies.
Oh, I'm like, what did you do?
There's some bugs.
Don't like this
Tammy's like, that's it.
Yeah, I had him here and I just shoot him
I'm
away,
like,
and
what?
ran over to Tammy, she's a
Yeah.
killer over there.
I'm like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
is going on down there? No, so this is the only reason I agreed to postpone is because I thought it was coming back. In my mind, with all the discussion, I thought that it was coming back. That's all. So I don't know how the rest of the majority of the board feels, or if we need to have that discussion in a work session, or I
When
don't know.
Lisa
what.
comes, the 22nd,
Okay,
that
alright.
discussion can be.
Review that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I'll say about it now, because, yeah. But that was my thought process at that time. And other than that, that was all my red flags. Now I got a new red flag there, but that's okay, 'cause we just.
I gotta start there too.
So did you have some other flags there, Jane, Tammy? What did you?
Not that's a big hurry, unless, I did have some, input outside of the committee for
What page are we looking at?
only having one board comment, or one, public
comment.
comment.
What page are we looking at?
We are looking at, I guess it would be between page 38 and 40, but also under 37, under order of business. And the thought was to make it like the planning commission minutes, where first public comment becomes only public comment about everything and anything,
Mhm.
and then getting rid of second public comment.
I think we should, my opinion, we leave both public comments. I don't think it's been that bad.
I think one public comment at the beginning would suffice. I mean, that's over and above, I mean, that's
If
follows
you,
the
as
statute.
long as it's about anything and everything.
Everything and
As long
everything.
as it's not limited to just agenda items at first public comment, I think a lot of people would prefer if they had a second public comment to make it in the first comment, because a lot of them leave after.
Limiting it to the agenda, yeah, if you're there for your road and like last night, you sit through the CLIB and everything and you live on 65 and all you care about, like those people on Merton, is your road, so you sit there the whole meeting
To make your second
to
public.
finally be like, I'm here to talk about my road, it's
3
got
hours
holes,
later.
my car's stuck in one of them. Yeah.
I've been to a lot of board meetings at different municipalities, and they all have, at the beginning, one public comment.
You keep it 4 minutes, that way the.
And most of those, by the way, have less than 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
oh,
Most are-
definitely,
most
yes.
But I would say
3
that,
minutes, yeah.
I would say to have one public comment at the beginning about anything and allow us to continue to, do business. I mean, that's what the purpose of the meeting is, to conduct business.
It would just have to be, make sure that it's any item, and that eliminates the comment cards as well, cause you're not
Right.
Yeah, and it's-
checking first public comment and what your
It's
topic
open,
is.
if you have one, it's open for all.
And it's important to have it at the beginning of the meeting, so if
Anybody
there
can-
is a
yeah.
concern on something we're gonna act on, we get that input.
Yes.
As opposed to, we
After.
take action and then at the last, they wanna make some comment about what all has already been, has
Well,
transpired.
like,
Well, some people
remember-
wanna make comments about that, that we
I remember the
like.
one we had the drain commissioner,
And they
and
should
we
be
waited
allowed
until
to.
the end, and then it was like, if we had had your comment before we took action, but it wasn't, his comment was above and beyond when we had him there.
I agree
And then
with
we still
you.
had to do another meeting to actually include what he talked about, cause then we had to get the data and everything else after his comment. Where if it was up front, it could have been included in that original motion and saved us another meeting.
Yeah, I would like to see us limit it to one public comment and open it to any item they wanna talk about.
Well, and just as a reminder, our decision has to go to board vote,
Yep.
so,
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
These will be proposed.
I'd like to put a time limit on the meeting. Just kidding. Kidding.
Any other flags or things like Jamie?
Those are the biggest ones, I think we hit on most of the stuff that would be things that we need to change,
Yeah.
like,
Well, we're gonna have to, like, any of the committees, if we have the planning commission, the subcommittee on the planning commission, they go through the ordinance and make revisions, and then the
goes to
director
the board.
puts it together, and writes it up, and then we review it again.
Yeah, you do a
Um,
first read, and
Yeah.
you do all of those things. The
Look at it in
subcommittee
actual
looks at it,
writing,
sends it,
yeah.
presents it to the planning commission will do a first read and hold a public meeting, and then it goes to the board of trustees, so that a lot of eyes are on
Yeah.
amending, so.
Absolutely.
But we have to be careful at the same time of making sure we get this done before
Yes.
2025.
Yeah.
That's, well, I'm
Yeah.
serious, it's kind of cause there's things in here that people are sticking us to that need to be changed.
Right,
Like the
Mhm.
pre-board work sessions, things like that.
right,
Yeah.
We haven't had one of those in a year or two,
at least, yeah.
but,
We have, page 41. 813B. And it's just the signing of township documents. Didn't we change that? Because it used to be the supervisor and then the clerk would sign if unavailable. Did we change that at a board level by resolution?
no.
Or is that still the same? That was I thought we changed it to just one. That's why I'm asking.
It says
Does it,
in the event that the supervisor isn't available, the clerk may sign.
I thought I remembered like first year there was something where we had moved it to where it was signing, so I just wanted to.
That was the real estate documents.
Real estate documents.
Oh,
Real
Thank
estate
you. I'm gonna
documents.
put that right next to this. Okay, yes, cause realtor didn't want.
Do we wanna add that, except for real estate documents to that?
Sure.
Can't hurt, I guess,
Just to make
just
sure.
for clarity for new people.
just so it's in there, so you know, yeah. I know there's a couple of these ones, I still have to do a few other ones.
Like the wire documents, that's funny. Like, who does that anymore?
All I'm
Morse
saying
code.
is that, yeah. You'd be surprised, we've got a couple that still, you know, throw a fit, cause they're like, do you have a fax number for me? And I'm like, I have an email. Can you have document for me?
This I just find interesting because of, what you were just talking about, the verbatim minutes.
Mhm.
What page you?
I am looking at page 42. It says that any board member that is requesting verbatim, basically, it doesn't say verbatim, but it says, for accuracy, their, remarks to be put in, they have to provide that in writing to you as a form of record.
Yes.
So they have to write it up and give it to you. You don't have to type it up in the minutes, but it has to be presented as record.
Yeah, I had one that Ann had that she wanted that way, and she had written it out and sent it to me in the email. What that does is it releases myself and the board from the liability of the verbatim statement.
Well,
Or
right,
the
and
request
that's,
of the individual.
I just thought that was interesting, I never noticed it.
Yeah, cause Steve had one time he wanted that way, and I told him I needed it in writing, and then we did the minutes, and the next one was like, you didn't change it, I said, well, I didn't receive your request. in
And you
writing."
have to have that, yeah. I just was thinking of the
Yeah,
recorder
because
deal.
otherwise, if you try and, like, put quotation marks around what somebody says, and you miss a word, now you've violated.
Or you,
what was-
or even like, approve. What I hear and going through it, like, I went back and rewatched that, and that's what Jamie said, and she knew that, but if I would've just put that in and I said it was word for word and quoted it,
Mhm.
then we're in violation because I
Right.
misquoted her. And once
Yeah.
it goes in, that's why you have the written request, so you can match the two,
What they're-
and
that's
that
what you
releases
submitted.
liability,
I got it.
yes.
Well, that's why the
That's right.
the minutes are only to reflect a generalization of what's said. You don't dictate word for word what everybody says through all of the comments and everything that goes on in a board meeting. Your minutes would be hundreds of pages if you were
Well,
trying
that's
to
why
do
I
that.
looked for the ones for the public hearing, because in a public hearing specifically, they wanted, are you for or against whatever the public hearing is? That's the main point, like Jamie got up and she was for it, Josh got up and he was against it, Bob got, they want that tally in there.
Right.
And that's the main thing, it's not what you spoke on, it's whether you were for or against what we brought in that public hearing. Cause I did go, there's like a whole other section further in depth in my book on those. And
Yeah.
that helped me kind of clarify what you guys got in those minutes to try to keep it to whether they were for or opposed. There's no arguments. If somebody was speaking out of turn, and that's another thing when people are talking, when people get upset because other people speak, well, you hold the floor if you're speaking. I'm keeping track of you, and not other people talking while you're. It's interesting. I got a lot of rules for how I'm supposed to keep track of those little
Yeah.
4-minute comments.
Mhm. Okay, anything else? Or
That was.
we're at
Everybody have
12:36.
a letter?
So what I can do is I will work on getting this put into like a Word form. And I will say, as someone who helped start with this, it's not that fun because it changes everything. It is fun. So, but I will try and get, Tara and I will work on getting this in a Word form, so that way we can do track changes and get, and then send it out to everybody.
Okay.
So you'll have that and you can look at your comments, and if there's anything that gets missed, we can remember this, or whatever.
Do we
That
have-
way everybody's got,
We have a PDF now,
yes.
so when you convert this, like this
Oh, no,
and that.
this
are
is a
gonna-
document taken from someone else.
Oh, boy.
Uh-huh.
So I was gonna say, just converting Word when you have the structure
I
of the
know how to.
PDF.
I
Those
know
minutes
how.
that went when we were doing the upload, that's what they did to me.
No, well, this is worse than
That's why
that.
my page numbers look weird on those.
No, this makes it so everything jumps.
Okay, well, if we're done,
Okay,
We covered a lot in
we'll
there.
call this meeting adjourned.
thank you.
Yay.